Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another HOBOTECH product review. Say you know little to nothing about building out your own fully featured solar power system, but you want to install one in your RV, van, boat, cabin, or outbuilding. As long as you only need single-phase 120-volt power, one of the simplest plug-and-play solutions on the market today is the ECOFLOW Power Kit system. It's an all-in-one solar power solution that can charge direct from any DC source up to 60 volts, including a vehicle alternator. Has two built-in MPPT solar controllers, its own 70 amp regulated DC output, and a built-in 3600 watt pure sine inverter. Power kits support up to a whopping 15 kilowatt hours of power, or the equivalent of 12 100 amp hour lithium batteries. Now it all sounds pretty fantastic, but we gotta know, is it any good? Let's find out. Now you may have already heard of power kits before because they've been around for well over a year, and I've actually had one in full-time use since early 2023. I first installed it on my trailer and used it for a month in Quartzsite. That was to camp off the grid. At that time, it was a prototype, and I received an updated version and installed it last year to power my entire lab. I did this by running the AC output into a mechanical interlock switch in my breaker box. Unfortunately, I really don't have any footage of exactly what it looked like. Since then, I've changed it out, but here is the general idea. Okay, here's how I originally had the power kits hooked into my breaker box. Now I have what's called an interlock kit. So it's a mechanical interlock switch that goes between these two breakers, and then it will allow you to only switch one way and one the other way. So you couldn't actually have both breakers on at the same time. It basically forces you to do one switch or the other. Now I took this off because I no longer had the power kits directly into my breaker box. I'm now using the Smart Home Panel 2, which I did a video on this recently. But what it originally did was it switched between these two breakers, and the power kits was coming in on this side, and the grid was coming in on this side. So what that allowed me to do was switch the whole building from either grid power or power kits power. And it was that simple. And how I got the power into here was basically with just a big extension cord. Right here, I basically have a receptacle for a 30 amp hooked up. It's a 3-pole. I didn't remember that the power kit doesn't do 240 volts. So I needed a 3-pole. And then this goes into the wall and then up. Then those wires came up and went into this breaker. This is super cheap. You can pick up these parts at Home Depot or any supply store like Lowe's or anything like that. You get this box. I bought this box actually on Amazon because my local Home Depot doesn't carry the male version, just the female version. So basically it's just a 30 amp hookup cord. And what I did is I put an adapter on it because this cord was a twist lock. I couldn't find one that actually had this on it. So I just bought the twist lock cable, 30 amp, and then put this adapter on it, and then this just plugs right into the wall. And then this would just plug in like that, bada bang. You got power from the power kits going into your circuit breaker box. The power kit system comes with all the cables and mounting brackets that you'll need for either a mobile or static installation. Here are the cables that came with the ECOFLOW power kits. I did modify them for my RV. So starting with this one, this is the alternator input. This is the 12 volt in from your alternator. I did not need to modify this. This next cable is DC output. They gave me these tiny little connectors, which I had to cut off and put my own connectors on because these are connecting basically to battery terminals. Then of course you have the standard MC4 connector for solar. I didn't need to modify that at all. This one here is AC input. I had to modify this so that I could put a plug on it, and it'll allow me to charge it from a gasoline generator if the weather's really bad. Last but not least, AC output. You can see here I put an AC outlet on the end of it, and what this is going to allow me to do is plug my shore cable from my RV with an adapter into this. Now I'm not planning on pulling more than 15 amps during my trip on the AC inverter, so that's really not going to be an issue. I know this is not rated for 30 amps, but I'm not running air conditioners or anything like that. At most, I'll be running my microwave, which is 1800 watts. So there you go. It's a rundown of the 5 cables that comes with the ECOFLOW power kit and how I modified them for my RV. Now I need to admit up front that I didn't use any of their battery mounting hardware, but instead used my own straps. The reason being is that I knew the install in my trailer was temporary, and at the time it was a prototype, so I actually had an entirely separate conventional solar power system as a backup. Now, I'm the kind of guy that always tries to have a backup in place for things like power, which is vital when you're camping in the middle of the desert for a month without hookups. Here's some old footage I took camping in Quartzsite with it in 2023. This is previously taken from the video How to Solar Power Everything in Your RV, so some of you may recognize this footage. But if you notice, I have a complete second system in here. This is the ECOFLOW power kit. I have a 5 kilowatt battery back here going to the ECOFLOW hub system. Now this hub has, I believe, a 3500 watt inverter. It will take multiple inputs of solar, 12 volt alternator from your car, output 12 volts. It does have a monitor, which I'm waiting for in the mail. I have that hooked up to this single PV 420 panel. I have it laying down because I really don't need all the power right now, but I have that running in. But to keep that topped up, it's currently at 100%, just like my Power Queens. So I can actually plug in either or system. The way I have this set up is that I can turn this switch off, and that disconnects the Power Queen batteries. I can turn this on, and then that just automatically will supply 12 volts and AC power to my RV. I did take some footage a few months back when I was testing out the inverter capacity on the power kit, and this is when it was still hooked up as my primary system here in the lab. You'll notice at that time I only had 2 of the 5 kilowatt hour batteries and have since upgraded to that third battery for a total of 15 kilowatt hours. Here's a little update on the ECOFLOW power kits. Now I've been using the power kits for about 6 months now to power everything in my lab, as you can see. And today I am charging some power stations. So you can see here I have 3 kilowatts going out, that's through the inverter, and I have 2.3 kilowatts coming in from solar. Now I have this second set of Renogy panels. These are $450 a piece for $900 total. Those feed in through the bottom and up into the solar input. So one solar input is for the panels outside, the other solar input is for power coming from these batteries. Now, as part of the power kits, I have 2 5 kilowatt hour batteries. You can hear the fans pretty loud. You can see here on the power kits that the batteries are currently at 96 and 95% respectively at the bottom of the screen there. You can see here I have 1.56, 1.57 coming from the alternator input, which is the batteries, the Endure Energy batteries. And then I have 700 watts coming in from direct solar. But this gives me a good opportunity to see how hard can I push the inverter. Am I going to blow a circuit, or am I going to shut this thing off? If I push it too hard, what's going to happen? Okay, I'm now pushing the inverter to 3.4 kilowatts, and it's still holding. No problem. I do still have the Wave 2 hooked up, and it does work just fine. All right, I just kicked on the ECOFLOW Wave 2. Okay, we're now at 3.55. I had the power kit as my exclusive power system in the lab for about a year. Now you have to understand I do use a lot of power in here. There were many days that 10 kilowatt hours wasn't enough. So I had some other third-party batteries feeding into the power kit via the alternator input, because you can throw in whatever you want as long as it meets the basically 13 to 60 volts. Now this is probably the best feature of the power kit, the ability to charge from 12 to 60 volt sources at 60 amps up to 1600 watts. So that means if you're installing this in a mobile application in a vehicle with an alternator, you can hook up your starter battery, and then there's a setting in the app that will allow you to charge your system while the engine is running. It also has this cool feature where you can send emergency starting power from the power kit batteries back into your starter battery so you don't get stranded. Now this is all controlled via the excellent ECOFLOW app. So what's the power kit doing now? It is still in my lab and is powering some equipment. Up until I had the ECOFLOW Delta Pro and the Smart Home Panel 2 installed, I was exclusively using the power kit to run everything in my lab. It still charges daily with solar and is used as a backup system in case I do have to shut down the main system. So here's what the power kit looks like today with the 3 batteries. I have the 3 batteries down here. I got some other little experimental things going on here, so you could just ignore that. Now I don't have the power console mounted to the wall. That's one of those things I was planning on doing, but I'm like, where in here do I really want to mount it? It's kind of out of reach because this is a tight space and behind me is glass, and I'm like, where am I going to put it? So I just leave it right there. It still works perfectly fine. You can see I can touch the screen, and I like this a lot better than the app because it gives you all the same settings, and you can go in here and change pretty much anything that's in the app. There's only maybe a couple of initial settings that you need to put in the app. I'll just give you a quick run over of the inputs and outputs on the main unit. Now this is the power hub, that's what they call it. You have little lights across the top, alternator in, PV in, AC in, DC in and out. And then you have your DC and AC manual buttons here if you want to do things manually. You also have inputs on the side for AC charging and AC output. This is that network cable that runs down to the console, and as I mentioned before, you can mount this anywhere. It's just a power over Ethernet connection, so you can run it anywhere. The console does have a USB output on it, which I'm using to charge a little power bank. You have your alternator input, your two MPPTs. Now these are currently running outside to some solar panels. I'm no longer using the alternator input because I have the system set up differently now. Here are your 3 battery connections. Now you can sacrifice one of these to install the dual fuel generator if you want to. You can also sacrifice one of these for a 48 volt output. So the company that sells these actually makes their own 48 volt output cable that you can use on one of these ports, and it gives you 48 volt output because the power kit itself only does 12 or 24 volts. I only found this out last night, so I'm going to order one of those from them. And the reason why 48 volt output on this would be great is because then I can charge my ECOFLOW Delta Pro Ultra that's right here in front of me on the floor. That's currently what's powering my lab. This is now a backup system, but I'm telling you, it worked just perfectly fine for a year. The limitation on it is 120 volts only. Now I did need 240 volts for EV charging. I also needed it because I'm running 240 volts to an outbuilding that is almost finished. So I did change this over pretty much just because I needed the 240 volt service. But it's all pretty simple. I'll show you what the batteries look like. These are 3 stacked up in a row. All right, here are the 3 5 kilowatt hour batteries. They're not very tall when stacked up. And of course you can get the mounting kit for these. So you can mount these in a situation if you're mobile, you don't want them falling over. Of course, in a static situation like this, I'm on a concrete pad. They're not going anywhere. They stack up nicely and stay put. They also have a display on them so you can see what percent each battery is charged. Now this is what the console looks like. This is the settings that you get. Now you can click on any of these things and it gives you much more detail as to what the batteries are. You would mount this in your RV on the wall, or if you're like me, you're mounting it in a building. Gives you available time to charge or discharge. It shows you here I have it set to only discharge the batteries down to 30%. That's to extend the life. And in here you can set the charge level. So you can set the charge level there. You can set the discharge level right there, like I have 30%. And you can set the smart generator if you have it hooked up when you want the smart generator to kick in. Now if you click on input, it gives you all the inputs which you can turn on and off. So if you don't want to use your solar or your alternator inputs, you can individually turn these off. You can also turn on and off AC charging. And then you can do this also remotely through the app. Now, if you go into the settings, you can actually have this run and charge the power kits while your engine is idling. And then on the rest of these, you can adjust the amount of current coming in. So I've used this bottom one a lot to pretty much regulate how much power comes in from other batteries. If I was outputting any power, you could see it has AC and DC, and it would have a little power curve there. You can go into the settings and allows you to prioritize grid usage or change your DC output from 12 to 24 volts. Main settings screen, you can do the brightness, wireless LAN, Bluetooth, language, the screen timeout, unit timeout. And it has a log that you can check out and the about. You can actually do all your firmware updates through this screen. And that's all there is to the console. Now, I wasn't really sure if ECOFLOW was ever going to want me to do a full review of this system because every time I asked them about it, there was a higher priority, like a newer product coming out. That's why this review has taken so long, and also why I don't have tons of footage laying around of it being in action. Now, I did beat the tar out of it for a very long time, and there were just a few bugs that seems to have all been squashed in the past year of firmware updates. That's one thing that makes ECOFLOW top dog in this industry. The fact they release regular firmware updates to fix bugs and add new features across their entire product line. They even recently fixed the time display bug that I reported a while back. So let's talk about the basic specifications. A lot of this can't be easily found on their website for the product, but I did piece it together from several sources, including the user manuals and other documents I got from ECOFLOW. Let's start with the batteries. It supports from 2 kilowatt hours up to 15 kilowatt hours of power kit batteries And these are, of course, 3500 cycle lithium iron phosphates. And that cycle life can be further increased by limiting the charge and discharge rate limits inside of the app. The batteries are available in both 2 kilowatt hour and 5 kilowatt hour sizes. Up to 3 of the same can be used together, but you can't mix and match. So if you start with a 2 kilowatt hour battery, you're going to be limited to 3 of those for a total of only 6 kilowatt hours maximum. Now this is fine if you're severely limited on space. I'd say if your budget allows, I'd suggest starting with the 5 kilowatt hour battery because then you can upgrade to that maximum 15 kilowatt hours later down the line. Let me put the sizes and weights on screen so you can see if these fit into your application. Note the 5 kilowatt hour battery is pretty heavy at 90 pounds, but it is very compact. I remember when I first received them, I thought they sent me the wrong size. I was like, there's no way they fit a 5 kilowatt hour server rack battery inside this little box. Now, if you're considering this for an RV, just make sure you have the storage compartment big enough for these batteries, unless you're going to put them inside. I decided to install both the main inverter head unit and the battery in the same compartment. This way, the inverter running will keep the batteries warm, and it keeps the cable runs the shortest. Now, of note, these batteries are also heated and rated IP54 for outdoor use, so you can place them in an outdoor compartment area that's not insulated and receives moisture. Heated batteries mean you can charge them all the way up from -4 degrees up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the main inverter unit, they call that the power hub. This thing is amazingly small and lightweight for everything that's packed inside. It's only 31 pounds and measures approximately 19 by 6 by 12 inches. It does need to be mounted upright so the fans are facing up top. It has a 3600 watt pure sine inverter with a 7200 watt 100 millisecond surge ability. Note that the power kits only output 120 volts at 60 hertz and does not offer 240 volt split phase capability. This is really a non-issue for mobile applications, but I want to mention this just in case you plan to use it in a residential capacity. Now let's talk about that AC input. The power kit can be charged with AC power, for example, shore power from the grid or from a generator. In fact, it's designed out of the box to be used with ECOFLOW's 1800 watt dual fuel gas and propane generator. That generator can be set to auto start and stop depending on the battery level percentage that you set inside the app. Now this would be an amazing combo while camping. I do have a full separate review on that product that I did last year. So say you're charging from standard grid power, it can be charged up at up to 3000 watts at 30 amps. So if you install a 30 amp RV plug on the AC input cable, you can actually plug it directly into the 30 amp service at any RV park or campground. As for DC charging, this thing is a total beast. It has 3 high wattage DC inputs. One is a low PV or alternator input that's a DC to DC charger that can charge with 13 to 60 volts up to a whopping 60 amps at a maximum of 1600 watts. The other 2 are MPPT controllers that can charge from 15 volts all the way to 150 volts at 30 amps or 1600 watts each. So if you look at the current user manual, it says these only support 60 volts, but that's old information. All 3 inputs can be run simultaneously for a whopping 4800 watts of DC charging. This means you can top up the maximum 1500 kilowatt hours of batteries in less than 4 hours. Now, if that's not enough, it does support simultaneous AC and DC charging up to 6000 watts, which will top up the largest battery combo in under 3 hours. So say you want to top up with shore power and solar at the same time before leaving on an adventure. You can certainly do that. And if hooked to your alternator and solar, both will charge at the same time while you're driving. It's really a fantastic system since this is all built into a single compact unit. Now, what about solar? Well, as for solar options, you can use whatever the heck solar panels you like, as the cables that the power kits come with already have MC4 plugs already attached. ECOFLOW does sell some rigid 100 watt and 400 watt solar panels with mounting kits that'll work on most surfaces. So I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about the solar aspect of this product because it is very versatile. And you can basically do whatever you want to get that 1600 watts per MPPT controller. That is 3200 watts of solar. That's probably more than most people can fit on their rigs anyway. Last but not least is the high amp regulated 12 and 24 volt output. The power kit can also be hooked directly into a fuse box to supply up to 70 amps at 13.6 volts or 60 amps at 26.4 volts. Now, it doesn't support both 12 and 24 output at the same time, but this is switchable again inside the app or the console. 70 amps of DC output is the most you're going to get from any ECOFLOW product or any competitor for that matter. This output is of course protected internally by ECOFLOW, but I would still recommend installing your own fuse on this output because a 70 amp short is nothing to laugh at. As mentioned before, this entire unit can be monitored and controlled remotely from anywhere you have internet. And even if you don't have internet, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth that can be used without any service. So what if you hate wireless access and apps? You can also get the optional but strongly recommended PowerKit console touchscreen display. Power and data are both delivered through a standard network cable, so it's easily ran through most walls where you'd like to mount it. This will enable you to use the entire system without Wi-Fi or Bluetooth if desired. You can even update the firmware from the console, which is pretty sweet. I do want to mention that this product is also UL 1973 and 458 certified, so it is safe to install in your mobile or residential application. So what do I think about the PowerKit system after owning it and using it for more than a year? I think it's a fantastic piece of engineering from ECOFLOW, and I was really shocked that they didn't really market the thing that much. It kind of came and went, and some of you did ask me about it. I'm sure some of you have already purchased and installed it, so I'd be interested to hear what you think and what your comments are on using the product. Just go ahead and drop that in the bottom of this video. Now I can already hear what the DIY crowd is going to complain about because this is an all-in-one plug-and-play solution designed to be a total no-brainer install that literally anybody with no electrical knowledge whatsoever can do. This, of course, is going to come at a price because power kits are not cheap. Prices range from about $4K up to $13K with discounts. This is about what a professional solar install would charge for a much smaller component system. And I was quite surprised to find out that the average install price for a solar system on an RV is like 8 to 10 grand. I'm just mind blown that people pay that much to put solar on their RV. But that's like the average, and I was talking to a solar installer and they said, yeah, that's about what most people spend. And you can take that same money, get this system, install it yourself since it's so easy, and end up with something that's a lot bigger for the same money. Remember, this is state-of-the-art technology, and it does come with a factory 5-year warranty, which can be extended up to 10 years. So your investment will be protected. You may also qualify for that 30% federal solar tax credit depending on how it's installed. Now, on a side note about how to purchase this product, ECOFLOW has outsourced the power kits to a vendor called Campervan HQ. They're a licensed distributor of this product, so don't be freaked out when you click on the links and end up at their website. So if you are interested in the ECOFLOW power kits, I'll have links in the description of this video below for each of the 5 different power kit sizes. There should be something that meets most people's budgets. Discount codes are going to be available on their website and listed at the top of the screen. I'm also going to put a link here at the bottom of the screen along with a QR code to the 5 kilowatt size that I recommend most folks should start with because you can always upgrade. But if you need something that's smaller or larger than this, just click the links below in the description. Remember to use the discount codes on that website to get the best price. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box. RV Golf Guy, Brian Blue, Bruce Johnson, Jason Sirocco, Steve Eisen.